Well, I hope that you've had a great Wednesday today. It's been really, really rainy, so that part is, for some people, may be good, for some people, may be bad. But I'm excited that we get to study the book of Job tonight for the next few minutes. As always, if you are sick and hurting in any way, we want to let you know that we're praying for you and we love you. And if there's anything that we can do for you at all, we just ask that you would ask us. We're going to jump right into it tonight. We're in Job chapter 6. That's where we are. So if you haven't read Job chapter 6, please pause the video, go read Job chapter 6, and then you'll be ready to go. If you have read Job chapter 6, we're going to jump, like we said, straight into it. You'll remember in Job chapters 4 and 5, Eliphaz begins to speak. We went through Eliphaz's first speech last time, and now we're at the point in chapters 6 and 7 where Job gets to respond to what Eliphaz has just said. But I want to finish reading the ending of chapter 5 real quick. Let's read that. Job chapter 5, starting in verse 17. Behold, blessed is the one whom God reproves. Therefore despise not the discipline of the Almighty. For he wounds, but he binds up. He shatters, but his hand heals. He will deliver you from 6 troubles. In 7 no evil shall touch you. In famine he will redeem you from death, and in war from the power of the sword. You shall be hidden from the lash of the tongue, and shall not fear destruction when it comes. At destruction and famine you shall laugh, and shall not fear the beast of the earth. For you shall be in the league with the stones of the field, and the beast of the field shall be at peace with you. You know that your tent is at peace, and you shall inspect your fold and miss nothing. You shall know also that your offspring shall be many, and your descendants as the grass of the earth. You shall come to your grave in the ripe old age, like a sheaf gathered up in its season. Behold, this we have searched out. It is true. Hear and know it for your good. You remember we talked about last week, the main argument that Eliphaz gives to Job is, Job, I want to let you know something. All human beings fall short. All human beings sin, Job. There's no one that is righteous. So, my friend, you're wanting to know why this has happened to you. The things that you're experiencing in your life, they're happening to you because you're human, Job. But Job, listen to this. God will be merciful and gracious to the ones who repent, Job. So if you'll just come back to God, if you'll repent and you'll tell God you're sorry, everything will be okay, Job. And you know, Eliphaz appeals to the doctrine of retribution, that idea that the righteous are always rewarded and the wicked are always punished. Eliphaz seems to say, Job, I want to offer you comfort in that if you'll just repent, the great life you experience, that will come back, Job. You'll have all these great things if you'll just turn back to God. Now, I don't think Eliphaz realizes it, but his motivation is really the same as what the Satan thought about Job. You know, Job serves you because he wants blessings. That's why he's pious. He's pious because he wants blessings from you. Well, notice that in Eliphaz's speech, his motivation seems to be, Job, if you want blessings, just turn back to God. Just repent. Nothing is in Eliphaz's speech that seems to indicate that, Job, you ought to turn back to God and love God for God's sake. That's why you ought to love God. You ought to love God because that's just who God is. Nothing about that. I do think Eliphaz is genuinely trying to comfort Job here, but that's not how it is with Job. What we're going to find in Job's response to Eliphaz is that he cannot accept the things that Eliphaz has instructed him to do. Job believes that he has done nothing wrong to experience the ills that he's experiencing in his life. And what we're also going to see is that in chapter 6, Job speaks to the friends as a whole and not just to Eliphaz, although he does address some things that Eliphaz said. In chapter 7, he's going to speak directly to God. So we'll jump straight into chapter 6. Here's what we read. chapter 6, we'll read verses 1 and 2 and 3 first. Then Job answered and said, "Oh, that my vexation were weighed and all my calamity laid in the balances. For then it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words have been rash." So Job begins by wanting to visually demonstrate the enormity of his suffering, and he does that by using this image of a scale, and the scale is balanced by a pole in the center, and on one side of the scale he wants to put all his vexation, that is, that the feelings a person gets when they are experiencing trials in their life, those feelings of grief and those feelings of anguish. Job wants to put that on the scale, and then on top of that he wants to put the misfortunes that he suffered in his life on top of that. And then on the other side, he wants to put all the sands of the sea. And Job says, you know what, if you could put my vexation, all my misfortunes on one side of the scale, and you could put all the sands of the sea on the other side of the scale, guess what? What you're going to see with that scale that was balanced, guess where it's going? My vexation, my misfortunes, they outweigh all the sands of the sea. So Eliphaz, guys, do you want to know why my words are so rash? Look at my life. Look what I'm experiencing. Verse 4. For the arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit drinks their poison. The terrors of God are arrayed against me. Job has this idea of God being the master marksman who has arrows, and he puts the arrows in his bow and he is just shooting them at Job. He's shooting these arrows that are full of poison, and these poison arrows that God is shooting at Job like God is having target practice. The arrows are piercing Job's insides. His insides are drinking the poison, and that is causing his spirit to be grieved. He continues that image like God is leading an army that is about to raid a city, and they have all their arrows pointed back, and they're aiming, their bows pulled back rather, and their arrows are aiming at Job. Job, he's struggling. He's struggling to determine the relationship that he has with God right now, because right now it doesn't feel like a personal relationship anymore. Job feels like an object that God is trying to destroy. Well, we keep going and we read, does the wild donkey bray when he has grass, or the ox low over its I lost my place. Can that which is tasteless be eaten without salt, or is there any taste in the juice of the mallow? My appetite refuses to touch them. They are as food that is loathsome to me. We'll keep going. Verse 8. Oh, that I might have my request, and that God would fulfill my hope, that it would please God to crush me, that he would let loose his hand and cut me off. This would be my comfort. I would even exult in pain unsparing, for I have not denied the words of the Holy One. That curse lament that we read in chapter 3 that Eliphaz heard, and he had a problem with it, and he kind of expressed that to Job. Job returns to that. And he's standing by it. That curse, that oath that he wanted God to activate, that oath of death that Job wanted, that's what he returns to. That's what he wants. Job said, that would be my request. That is my hope. God, let me die. That's how Job thinks he's going to get out of his suffering. That's the only way Job thinks he's going to get out of his suffering, is just to die. That's the only way it's going to let up. Now, notice that Job never considers suicide. Job never considers taking his own life. Job wants to die, but the only way that death can come about is if it comes, if God brings death Himself. He wants God to activate this curse of death. Notice that also in these verses, Job is under the impression that God is holding back some on afflicting Job. And Job is pleading with God, God, don't hold back. Don't hold back anything. Give me all that you have, because if God would give Job all that he had, he would be crushed and he would die. And he would get what he wanted. Now, what's interesting is that is Job's request. That is Job's hope, death. You remember what Eliphaz had to say. Job, take comfort in the fact that you fear God. That ought to be your hope, Job. That you're a man who fears God. Job, your hope ought to be that you can repent and return to God and everything will be all right. That ought to be your hope, Job. Job says, no, that's not my hope, Eliphaz. That's not my hope. My hope is not that I fear God, and my hope is not that I can repent and come back to God, because I've done nothing wrong. My only hope is death. He says down there in verse 10, this would be my comfort. I would even exult in pain unsparing. God, if you would just grant this request. I know I'm in pain, but I would like leap with joy. I would be so excited that my suffering won't continue. For I have not denied the words of the Holy One. Eliphaz, you're telling me to repent, but I can't repent. I haven't denied the words of God. It would be an evil thing, Eliphaz, for me to repent of something that I didn't do. We'll go to verse 11 now. What is my strength that I should wait? And what is my end that I should be patient? Is my strength the strength of stones, or is my flesh bronze? Have I any help in me when resource is driven from me? What Job is really getting at is, God, if you're going to activate that curse that I want, if you're going to give me my hope and my request, please do it soon, because I'm running out of time, God, okay? I'm not, like he says, my strength is not the strength of stones, or my flesh is not bronze. You know, God, I am fading. I am going down quick, okay? So please do something. Verse 14. He who withholds kindness from a friend forsakes the fear of the Almighty. My brothers are treacherous as a torrent bed, as torrential streams that pass away. He's moving now in his speech to addressing the friends, and like we see in verse 14, he's accusing the friends of withholding kindness from him. They're not being loyal to Job. If they have a covenant with Job, Job is accusing them of not holding up to their end of the deal, because they're not being loyal to him. They failed. That's what Job is saying. They failed in comforting him. They've failed in supporting him. And because of that, they're the ones that are guilty of forsaking the fear of the Almighty. Okay? So if there's anyone, like Job is saying, if there's anyone that needs to repent, it's you guys, okay? Because you haven't done what you're supposed to do for a friend. My brother, Yeah, my brothers are treacherous as a torrent bed, as torrential streams that pass away, which are dark with ice, and where the snow hides itself. When they melt, they disappear. When it is hot, they vanish away from their place. Well, we'll stop right there. Job is using this metaphor of like a wadi channel in the desert, and when it gets so hot, you can see where there was a stream in the desert, but there's no water because the water is dried up. But when snow is in the desert and springtime is coming and that snow melts away from the mountainside and makes its way into the desert, that water it's murky water, but eventually it dries up. Job, he's telling the friends, guys, in the good times you're loyal. But in the bad times, you're unreliable. You're like a wadi channel in the desert in the heat. Okay, there is no guarantee that you're going to come through and refreshing me when I need you. He uses another metaphor in verse 18. The caravans turn aside from their course. They go up into the waste and perish. The caravans of Tema look, and the travelers of Sheba hope. They are ashamed because they were confident. They come there and are disappointed. So he uses this metaphor of caravans, and the same is true of what was already said. Guys, you're not living up to your loyalty. You're not doing what I need you to do. Job's dried up. That's what he's getting at. He's dried up, and the friends can't give him any water. Go to verse 22 now. Have I said, make me a gift? Or from your wealth offer a bribe for me? Or deliver me from the adversary's hand? Or redeem me from the hand of the ruthless? So what Job is really getting at here is he's saying, guys, my ills, they shouldn't be a burden to you. It shouldn't be a burden to you to have to comfort me. It shouldn't be a burden for you to have to support me. It shouldn't be a burden for you to have to try to get me back on my feet as a friend. That shouldn't be a burden. I haven't asked you to spend any of your money to redeem me from an enemy, maybe. I haven't asked you to, risk your own life to save me. Even though, if we're friends in a covenant relationship, you would be expected to do that. But guys, I haven't asked you to do any of those things. I've just asked that you be loyal and deal kindly with me. Teach me and I will be silent. Make me understand how I have gone astray. How forceful are upright words. But what does reproof from you reprove? Do you think that you can reprove words when the speech of a despairing man is wind? You would even cast lots over the fatherless and bargain over your friend. So what Job is really getting at in the next couple of verses is he's saying, guys, I wish that you would deal with me gently. I wish that you would be wise teachers. And I wish if I have sinned in a specific way that you would point that out to me. But you guys are just acting like, Eliphaz at this point, but y'all are just acting like aggressive lawyers. Y'all aren't giving me any comfort. And because of that, you failed as a friend. Just show me where I've gone wrong. And you've accused my speech, but how are you gonna combat my windy words? How does that even make sense? He just wants his friends to be his friends. But now be pleased to look at me, for I will not lie to your face. Please turn, let no injustice be done. Turn now, my vindication is at stake. Is there any injustice on my tongue? Cannot my palate discern the cause of calamity? Guys, listen. Please just be my friends. Please act the way that you're supposed to act. We are out of time. I just noticed that. I have a little more to say about this next week, and then we will move into chapter 7. I hope that everybody has a great rest of the week, and I can't wait to see everybody Sunday. God bless.